Regarding the Mumbai attack. Zaid Hamid, as you all know, our defense and strategic analyst is our guest, and basically this dossier is his baby. Welcome to the show. Rather, we should both welcome each other. Zaid Hamid, I want to ask you a couple of very basic questions about this entire 96-37 pages of this dossier. November 12, 2008. I would like you to start off from there.
Faisal, before we start with this timeline, I would like to make certain categoric statements. This is for the first time we are doing this Mumbai analysis, or expose of the Mumbai events in English. And there's a reason for this. We want the world to know what is actually happening in India. Right now, behind the facade of a shining India, there's a battle going on within the Indian society for the hearts, mind, and very soul of the Indian Federation. Okay. The Indian Federation is on the brink of being taken over by a fascist Zionist ideology of Hindutva or Hindu fascists. The nationalist Indians, the more secular Indians, those who are resisting this fascist ideology of Hindutva or Hindu Zionists, are actually losing this war now. And what is actually happening in India is that these fascists are now in such a powerful position that they are actually controlling the military, they are controlling the politics and the media, and now even the Indian nuclear weapons are in control of the Indian fascists. The biggest threat to the world in the 21st century would be if those perpetrators of the violence against, those who believe in violence against minorities, those who believe in violence against the untouchables, those who believe in the superior ideology of Hindu supremacy, if they control the federation, if they control the nuclear weapons of the Indian state,
the world is no more a safer place to live.
The world would not be a safer place. And this has actually happened in India already. See, what is happening in Pakistan is, for example, the state of Pakistan is fighting the religious extremism. In India, it's the religious extremists who have taken over the state already. And this Mumbai thing is perhaps the most glaring example of the fact that Indian Federation has now succumbed to the pressures of the fascist Hindu ideology. I'll tell you something very interesting before we come to the Mumbai thing, as you said of the timeline. You see, the Mumbai thing happened on 27th, 28th of November last year. And before that, for quite some time, a massive wave of terrorism was going on in India. Violence against Sikhs, violence against the Christians, violence against Muslims, violence
non-Hindus basically.
Non-Hindus and minorities, even the Hindu minorities of Dalits and Shudras who are untouchables within the Indian society itself. In the 21st century, it is almost unthinkable to assume that the biggest so-called democracy of the world has got hundreds of millions of people who cannot be touched, who cannot sit next to the upper caste, who cannot eat with them, who cannot be in their company.
Untouchables, basically. Untouchables. That's what they believe in, yeah?
The untouchables. So the violence within the Indian society has been intense. For the last so many years, they have been waging a terror campaign within India and blaming it on Muslims. But in the early weeks of November last year, what actually happened was that a very fine Indian police officer, Hemant Kurkure, he was investigating certain terrorist acts in India, and suddenly he stumbled upon a massive cartel of fascists who was actually waging a terror campaign in the Indian Federation.
Like, were these people from the Indian military?
They were. One of them was a serving colonel of the Indian military intelligence. And along with him, the Indian fascist organizations like RSS, Bajrang Dal, BJP, and all their cadre, one after another, were being exposed by Kurkure, and he was arrested. In fact, Colonel Prohit, the Indian military intelligence officer, was actually captured. And this was a bombshell for the fascists in India, because that made the headlines, that made the biggest of the stories. And previously, a few years back, there was a bomb explosion in a Samjhauta Express train. It's the train which runs between Pakistan and India. And an explosion took place which killed dozens of Pakistanis primarily.
Mostly about 70, 75
and
Muslims.
The allegations were levied against Jamaat-ud-Dawa or Lashkar-e-Taiba or against Pakistan for carrying out that carnage. It was later found out this Colonel Purohit, who was arrested by the anti-terrorism police,
Was the mastermind behind it.
He provided the RDX from the military depots, from the military stores. And the whole nexus of Zionists was falling apart. One after another, they were being caught. This was happening in the first quarter of the month of November. By 12th of November, 13th, 14th, 15th, if you see the timeline, which we have documented very categorically in this
And we'll talk about it in detail, yes.
And you will be shocked and surprised to know that practically the entire Indian...
Page 22.
I'll come to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the November of 12th, one of their gurus was captured. On November 13th, Gujarat police arrested a woman. November 14th, Colonel Purohit was captured. November 15th, Indian media was littered with news.
More arrests of Hindu
that more of them, the entire captured. And very interestingly, on November 24th, this is something that you need to note.
See, it also says Indian media reported that Hindu extremists involved in Maligan blast may also be behind Ajmer and Samjhauta Express blast.
See, this is what was happening.
NDTV I'm talking about.
The entire Indian media was shocked. The entire Indian nation was surprised and beyond belief for them that the entire Indian establishment, the military intelligence, their hardcore RSS were involved in every act of terror which was unfolding now. So the police officer who was investigating that, he was receiving death threats from these fascists. Colonel Purohit's arrest particularly created an urgency within these fascists.
That his home will be blown off or something like that.
Eliminate Kurkure. Yeah. And on November 24th, Indian media reported that he has been receiving death threats. His family knew about it. His friends knew about it. And he
anonymous scholar who used a public phone call office to contact the Pune police threatened to blow up the residence of Mumbai anti-terrorism squad chief Hemant Karkare within a couple of days.
That is true.
A top official.
On November 24th, he received death threats, and on November 27th, he was assassinated in so-called Mumbai drama. So what was actually happening in India was that primarily, let me make it very simple for viewers to understand. Basically, it was a fight between the Indian military intelligence, RSS, and Indian research and analysis wing, they're in secret service, versus the Indian police. The good guys in the Indian
anti-terrorist squad, basically.
Exactly. The good guys within the Indian police, the anti-terror squad, was actually, without realizing that they had confronted, they had stumbled upon the most massive terror network in India being run by the Indian military intelligence, hands in glove with RAW, Research and Analysis Wing. Now, this was the reason, the fact that in November, one after another, their entire cadre was being arrested by Kurkure, it created an urgency within the Indian security establishment to stage a drama. What benefit would this give? For example, the first thing what happened was, by staging this Mumbai drama, that entire attention of the world turned Zionists towards Pakistan.
Yep.
Second thing, the most important of them was, under the cover of this facade, under the cover of this mayhem, they were able to assassinate Kurkure and his entire team. And within 15 minutes,
first 15 exactly,
15 minutes of this drama,
they were shot in the back.
They were shot in the back, and very fascinatingly, Kurkure was shot with 9mm pistols. The pistols that those terrorists were not carrying, the weapons those terrorists did not have, and these pistols were used by Indian police. Now,
so basically, the guns which actually
assassinated the police officer were not with the terrorists, were not with the militants.
Because they had that 30 bow.
They had that 30 caliber pistols, which were .30, not 9mm. And anybody who knows guns know .30 is not 9mm. Now, interestingly, so Indians had to justify this also. So when they create a dossier against Pakistan, they show the picture of a .30 caliber pistol, but then they write underneath it's a 9mm. It's like showing a 155mm howitzer and saying it's an 8-inch mortar. Even an idiot can see they're trying to make a fool out of the word, you see. So, the fact is, that once this, what we are saying here is, that not just us, the Western media and some of the finest Indian analysts, some of the finest and brave Indian journalists have written this categorically, that this Mumbai drama was a nexus between Mossad, RAW and RSS. That is, RSS is the hardcore Hindu Zionist organizations in India. Mossad is the Israeli intelligence services, and RAW are the Indian intelligence. And we are not saying this. The Western intelligence, the Western analysts and writers, and some of the finest Indian writers like Amarish Misra has categorically documented these events which have led to this entire episode. And we have documented everything in this dossier. And we would recommend people to visit our website, as you said, brasstacks.pk, to download the entire dossier and see what they have. We are going to discuss few points from this now.
Now, okay, we'll start off with this basic bit. An Israeli and Jewish house was also part of this drama. Let's see what is the history of this Jewish centers in criminal and terrorist activity around the world. So we know that Chabad house is where Mossad headquarters.
You see, what happened was that primarily what the Indians were trying to do was they dragged the entire world into believing that Pakistani terrorists are involved in Mumbai. Pakistan had to be dragged in because that would serve that initial purpose of diverting the attention from their own terrorist acts towards Pakistan. Now, one of the houses which was supposedly under attack was a Jewish house. It was Chabad house or Nariman house, whatever its name was. Now, one of the Western writers, his name is Wayne Madsen, and he writes on WayneMadsenReport.com.
It's again on the 9th of November.
Yes, and he categorically writes, there is a history of Chabad houses not only being used as safe houses and logistics center for Israeli intelligence, but as a storefront for criminal activity. You see, this particular house was basically a Mossad headquarters. And as the further report suggests very categorically, that if you come to the Indian media reports, Maharashtra Times, for example, one of the newspapers, which says that the terrorists which killed the police officer was speaking local Marathi language.
It says the newspaper said the terrorists who targeted ATS chief Hemant Karkare, Police Commissioner Ashok Kamte, and Encounter Specialist Vijay Saraskar was speaking Marathi fluently. And this is Maharashtra Times.
Exactly. This is an Indian newspaper.
Not a Pakistani news channel.
It's an Indian newspaper categorically saying that the terrorist was speaking local Marathi language. No Pakistani on earth can speak Marathi language.
This is a regional Indian language.
This is a regional Indian language, a very local, and Indian media is saying that. Now, what has also, we find within this report we have documented a quotation, a statement by a very close friend of police officer Kurkure. And he says, I would like to quote it here, only hours of Kurkure's violent death, his close friend retired Colonel Rahul Gavardhan received an envelope. Kurkure called him to say he was sending him a confidential letter. This is how Times of India reported the story. He says that Kurkure, before his death, had sent a confidential letter to his dear friend. And obviously it suggested very categorically who is trying to kill him. Because his family also knew, they were receiving death threats, his house was threatened to be blown up. And this
That's why Kurkure's wife refused the compensation given to her by Narendra Modi.
Kurkure's wife, when Narendra Modi is the Mossad man in India. I'm not saying this, Indian analyst, Indian writer, Amarish Misra is saying that. So when Modi, once they killed Kurkure, the police officer, they eliminated him completely. They tried to give compensation to his wife, and the wife refused. Why would she refuse? What does it mean? It very categorically means she knew very well.
Kurkure must have spoken to her.
Exactly.
She knew the whole story.
She knew very well who was threatening her husband and family, who threatened to blow up her house.
And what was the story behind Narendra Modi?
Exactly.
Obviously,
and what is the story behind the arrest of Colonel Prohit and exposing of all these Indian fascists? This whole thing is known to the world. Everybody knows what's the story behind
it. Written in the Indian newspapers, been on Indian television channels as well. Sir, there is another interesting part of British descent, right? Now, this is something which is very mind-blowing to me. It says 8 men arrested by the Indian authorities, and amongst them were British men also. Why this information has been
You see, this is very interesting because RAW, Research and Analysis Wing, and Mossad are trying to fix up some kind of evidence against Pakistan. But in the heat of the moment, lots of information came out. Because naturally the media was there, lots of people were speaking. Even the ministers, the eyewitnesses
were trying to do too many things too quickly.
They were trying to do too many things too quickly. Primarily they wanted to create a 9/11, but idiots as they are, they could not handle it properly. And they thought, the way Americans were able to stage a 9/11, and after that they would able to wage a war against Afghanistan and Iraq, Indians would be able to do the same. The objective was this, but they mishandled it. They really goofed up big time. Because the Belfast Telegraph on its website very categorically says that the Chief Minister said today, UK, that 2 gunmen arrested after the Mumbai massacre were of British descent.
Yes, sir.
And they arrested 8 people, but this news was played down by British authorities. There's Indians are saying now, they have only arrested 1 lone gunman. But in the heat of the moment, their minister acknowledged to the British Telegraph that they have captured 8 people.
8 people.
And they were from various nationalities. They carried American passports, British passports, Mauritian passports, and Malaysian passports. And this is, I'm not saying this, the British media and the Indian media is saying this.
And they've accepted this basically.
They have accepted this now.
Oh, yes, sir.
And
now, there comes the Mumbai photographer. Okay. So-called these guys containing all the Pakistani products, starting from the pickles to the matchbox to the flour, I don't know what for, making bread maybe, or the funniest was the floor mopper, and so forth. Anyway, it says, there was this photographer, it says, Mumbai photographer, I wish I had a gun, not a camera. Armed police would not fire back. It says, Jeremy Taylor talks to the photographer whose picture went around the world. Now, Sebastian D'Souza, a gunman walks at this place with a gun and whatever. Go on, sir.
you see, again, what happens is, supposedly, according to the story, there were 2 gunmen who enters into a railway station and start killing people. And apparently,
initially, what the Indian media suggested, as if they were making a movie, that these people got into, they got out of that so-called the boat in which they left all the Pakistani products, so-called, and then they got into taxis. They were in a pair of 2 each, and then they paid the money to them, and then those taxis were blown. I don't know what sort of.
We'll come to that.
Yeah.
But what is happening is very categorically. You see, just look at the story, look at the scenario. 2 gunmen enter into a crowded railway station, kill and wounded over 200 people. There are hundreds of them.
Security and everything, yes, sir.
Everywhere. Nobody shoots those terrorists. Then those terrorists walk out, start walking on the road, main highway, goes to a different location, probably in a hospital or on some other place, and still the police is looking at them and nobody shoots them. And I'm not saying this again.
And you're talking about a crowded place
Crowded
in Mumbai.
Mumbai.
Imagine.
And these 2 men firing around start walking on foot. Now, the photographer, his name is Sebastian D'Souza,
Yep.
he categorically says, I told the police to shoot the damn men. And the police says, we cannot shoot them. We don't want to shoot them. They refuse to shoot them. They refuse to chase them. And this was something stunning, because the cameraman says, if I had a gun, I could have easily taken them out. And the police, of course, there are hundreds of them all around. Nobody shoots them. Why? What's going on? Why were they being protected? Why they were allowed to keep on carrying out this massacre? Because later on we'll know why.
So 10 words a Pakistani would never say, because, we have to make our viewers understand, especially those who are watching us abroad and who do not understand the regional language. Certain words which was recorded in that conversation. It says julm. We say zulm.
Again, during the heat of the moment, while Indians were trying to convince the world that the Pakistani terrorists are inside, they actually aired, supposedly, a conversation between a terrorist locked up inside and the Indian media. And that conversation is on YouTube, is on net, is recorded. And on that conversation, anybody who understands Urdu or its differences with Hindi can make it out categorically very clear. The person speaking that language is speaking pure Hindi. He is not speaking Urdu.
There's a difference.
There's a difference. And his accent is Indian. His accent is not Pakistani. It's like when the Irish Republican Army used to commit acts of terror in England, the British media would report, man with the Irish accent claimed responsibility. So accents matter a lot.
Absolutely, sir.
So, and especially, not just the accents, the words that you use. So this is very fascinating. Indians are trying to prove, initially, the media saying they were speaking Marathi, which is a local Indian language. Then the person who's speaking Hindi, whom they are saying is a Pakistani terrorist, no Pakistani on earth can use those words which that Hindi so-called terrorist was using. And this itself is comical, it's hilarious. In fact, it's ridiculous. So, coming to that, this is very interesting observation that you can make from this conversation released by the Indian media themselves. And one thing I would like to point out, Faisal, again is that the so-called terrorist whom they show as a Pakistani walking around carrying a gun was actually wearing a saffron band on his hand.
Orange band.
That orange band. And that orange band is called Kalawa. And if you go to the Wikipedia even, search what Kalawa is, and it categorically says it's a Zionist Hindu religious band worn for protection. And it is an orange-yellow mix with different connotations. And interestingly, no Muslim on earth would wear a saffron band. Saffron is not even an ordinary Hindu band. It's a band representing the hardcore Zionist extremist ideology. And this is something fascinating again, because the man they are presenting to be Pakistanis are either speaking Marathi or speaking Hindi or wearing saffron bands, and still their Indians are trying. And this is, everything happened within the heat of the moments, because they could not control the media at that time. Lots of things. And this we have documented that now. All Indian and Western sources, not a single Pakistani source we have quoted here. Now,
Zaid Saab, what we'll do is we'll just take a break here, and we'll come back after this short break. Stay with us. Don't miss today's episode of Brass Tacks. This known journalist, Indian journalist, Ramesh Mishra, has written a couple of very interesting stories regarding this particular episode. I would like you to throw light on them.
You see, what happens is, whenever we Pakistanis says this act of terror in Mumbai was done by Mossad, raw RSS nexus, everybody would blame us to be as biased. So let's take the Indian and the Western sources.
Okay.
Amarish Mishra, as I said, he is a secular Indian, the good Indian. He has done some, because he is genuinely concerned about his Indian Federation, about his country, which is being taken over by Mossad and raw nexus, by Zionist nexus.
By the extremists, basically.
By extremists, actually. And Mishra is very genuinely concerned. And interestingly, the way the Hindus, fascists have been threatening the police officer Kurkure, even Mishra is now receiving death threats, and will not be surprised if he is eliminated by them. So Mishra wrote a series of articles after this particular incident which happened. And here he writes that Mumbai terror attack, further evidence of the Anglo-USA Mossad RSS nexus.
Yes.
American, Israelis and Indian fascist agencies are involved in Mumbai. He does not say ISI, Lashkar-e-Taiba or Pakistan are involved. And it's not just that he's saying it. Andrew Marshall is a very respected writer. And Marshall says, the presence of foreign-looking, fair-skinned commandos who calmly gunned down dozens of people after drinking a few beers indicate that the Mumbai attack were likely the work of the Anglo-American covert intelligence operations, not indigenous Indian Muslims, or for that matter, Arab or Al-Qaeda terrorists. On another location, he says, because you know what happens is that eyewitness accounts categorically prove that this terrorist actually sat in a cafe first, drank beer, bought lots of beer for themselves, paid their bills, calmly came out, took out their guns, started to fire, and they were blonde-looking Westerners. They were not, as Marshall is saying this categorically. And these reports have been corroborated by the police officers as well. The police officers who went into that Jewish house, he says, I was shocked and surprised. I thought they would be terrorists like us. They would be people Indian looking, but they were Westerners, blondes, and they fired back on us, and then we fired back.
Who were they?
This is the stunning part. They were the Mossad operatives. They were operating because this is what the history, the other reports of the Nariman house and the Chabad house suggested very categorically, that dozens of people were staying in that house for a very long period of time. Indian
This
media,
Nariman house?
In the Nariman house,
Okay.
in the Jewish primarily was a Jewish headquarter, which was a Mossad headquarter for covert operations, for drawing up this entire plan again.
Carrying out all this terrorist activity,
Exactly.
basically. Okay.
And Marshall also says, you see, that it is clearly saying that these terrorists look like Anglo-American covert operatives. Use this word. Understand this word. These were not Lashkar-e-Taiba operatives. They were Anglo-American covert ops. Now, and also, the police officer who entered the Nariman house says, I went into the building last night. I was shocked because they were white. I was expecting them to look like us. They fired 3 shots. I fired 10 back. Now this is a police officer eyewitness account. He was engaged in operations on that day.
Okay.
Now, the Nariman house affairs bring Mossad angle to the fore. I'm not saying this. Mishra is saying this again. And Again, then he writes, people do not understand Zionism will never be able to understand what happened in Mumbai. This is very stunning statement because people need to understand what Zionism is, whether Jewish Zionism or Christian Zionism or Hindu Zionism.
Okay, I've got a question for you. It also says, because right, the last paragraph of page number 35 of your dossier, right? It says that the two people who were killed in that Nariman house one was Rabbi Gabriel and his wife Rivka. They ran the center as spokespersons of the Chabad Lubavitch movement. What is this Chabad Lubavitch movement?
This is one of the Jewish movements. Without getting into the detail, let me add you another interesting and strange information. The Jewish rabbi and his wife were also raped before they were killed. And this information, and not just here, in the Taj Hotel also, in other places, the guests were raped also, but not at the place where they were kept hostages supposedly, at places where there were no terrorists. So what was happening is basically using the target of opportunity. Lots of goons were out, lots of covert ops were there who were making good use of the opportunity for doing so much of things. And why the Zionists would kill two Jews? This is the answer that Misra gives. And he quotes a very interesting statement here. Very, very interesting statement here from David Ben Gurion. David Ben Gurion was the founding father of Israel.
Okay.
And he stated that he would sacrifice German Jewish children for the sake of Zionism. You see, this is very common for Jews. This is very common for Zionists to kill Jews. There are so many good Jews around.
Yeah.
There are so many good Jews who do not accept Zionism and Israel as a state. Zionist as an ideology, Israel as a state. They do not accept it. Just like there are some very good Indians also, just like Misra, just like Kurkure, who do not accept fascist ideologies of Hindutva or Hindu fascism.
And I'm just supporting your own comment here. It says people who do not understand Zionism will never be able to understand what happened in Mumbai. Why?
You see, the fact is,
something like this?
you see, Western world knows Gandhi very well. A symbol of peace, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who killed Gandhi?
As Hindu extremists.
Hindu extremists, Hindu Zionists. This is what people don't understand, people don't know. The same Hindu extremists from RSS and Bajrang Dal, the people who killed Kurkure, the people who committed this Mumbai atrocity, they killed Gandhi. Then also they were fascists. Also they are fascists. The difference is that now they have taken over the state, the Indian military intelligence, Indian research and analysis wing, and basically the Indian nuclear assets. The world is much more dangerous place now because Indian fascists have become nuclear powers now.
It says Zionists have always used dead Jews to build sympathy for Zionist goals and as to cover for Zionist crimes against humanity.
See,
what an interesting statement.
What an interesting statement. See, the 6 million Jews supposedly killed by Hitler, the Zionist state still makes use of them, still uses those dead Jews to create a case for Israel. And if you have to kill a Jewish sect member and his wife to create a greater cause of destroying Pakistan, because this is exactly
inhuman.
How inhuman, but this is how the complex covert ops and geopolitics and black operations work. That's how the secret services work. That's how the Zionist ideology works. To ruthlessly kill hundreds and thousands of people. Look what Israelis are doing in Gaza right now. Is it humanity? Even the worst of the animals would not do what Israelis are doing in Gaza today. And this is the ideology which now the raw Indian intelligence services have adopted from Mossad. And the same operations killing their own people for a covert op. The objective was to divert the attention from themselves against Pakistan, to create a justification that Pakistan is a terrorist state and the world should get together against Pakistan. This entire exercise ultimately leading up to is against Pakistan. That's why they went into United Nations. That's why they're creating an environment that to justify that since Pakistan has been supporting these terrorist acts, hence Pakistan is a terrorist country sponsoring terrorism and should be put under sanctions and ultimately should be invaded. This is the ultimate game plan. And this is what the Mumbai drama stood for. We'll discuss this more later.
We'll move on. And now it says that a huge mass of food was ordered by the residents of Nariman House. This food was enough for 30 to 40 people for several days. What's the story behind this?
You see, this is exactly the same thing we discussed earlier. That Jewish house was basically the headquarters for Mossad. And the people stayed in that house. Even that so-called terrorists stayed in that house weeks before. They were staying there. They were taken care of by the rabbi and his wife. And 30 to 40 people's food was being served in that house every day. And that was being done for weeks. And the amount of stockpiling of food and things which were being done, that was pretty clear. And that is why that Jewish rabbi and his wife were also killed, because Misra himself says they could have been the first eyewitness to the whole affair. So they had to be eliminated.
They had to be eliminated.
And they were. Officer, Misra very categorically writes, the death of Herman Kirkere remains a mystery. All official versions are contradictory. Some say he was killed near the CST, some near the Metro Cinema, and some that he was killed while in the police jeep. And that's a fact that this police officer was particularly targeted by his own team of police. He was from the anti-terrorist. The Indian Mumbai police is about 40,000 strong. But this anti-terrorist squad is different. They are not part of the Mumbai police. So basically, practically, what Misra also writes and Indian other writers also write, that from 11 p.m. at night till 1 a.m. in the morning, for 3 hours, the Indian police was not there. Why? He was isolated, targeted, assassinated.
Welcome back. You're watching Brass Tack's special episode regarding the Mumbai drama. We were talking about Himesh Mishra's stories. One was published on the 3rd of December 2008, and there was another story on the 9th, right after a week, 9 December. And it says the incident in Mumbai is a mercenary attack, very well planned. And basically, he's written a lot of good stuff, I would say, which you're going to definitely talk about Narendra Modi, the Chief Minister of Gujarat. So,
you see, if you know who Narendra Modi is, the world remembers the 2002 Gujarat riots, in which over 5,000 Muslims were burnt alive in Gujarat, the first genocide, holocaust of the 21st century. Narendra Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat at that time. And this man is now about to become perhaps the Prime Minister of India. The man is a war criminal. The man has got genocidal track record. He was refused visa in America because of his record. Wherever he goes in the world, there are protests against him. And he is, according to Misra, you see, let me tell you one thing is that we are only quoting Indian and Western sources, but there are hundreds of other sources also which confirm the same findings. So Misra, in his article of December 9th, writes about Modi. Narendra Modi has left the RSS behind in many ways. He is Mossad's #1 man. You see, what is happening is even within the Hindu fascists, lots of cadre have gone out of control. And Misra continues to write, recently, a top RSS functionary, you see, remember this, RSS themselves are fascists. And RSS top functionary is confiding to Misra, told me that, Amaresh, we have lost control over our cadre. We never wanted to let things get out of hand in Odisha and Karnataka. In Odisha, we had even planned a joint declaration with Christian leaders, but there was a revolt from below. The VHP and Bajrang Dal refused to fall in line. Then they got the subtle support of that man Modi. We were helpless. Basically, he's referring to the slaughter and massacre of the Christians in India. What happened was that recently, massive slaughter of Christians have taken place. Churches have been burnt, nuns have been raped, and the Christian families have actually been burnt alive in the same manner as the Muslims were burnt alive in Gujarat. And this operation was also conducted by Narendra Modi. And here, a top RSS man is acknowledging that even RSS leadership have lost control, because now the entire command and control has been hijacked by Modi, and Bajrang Dal and other fascist organizations are now controlling the events and circumstances in India. So even now, even the hardliners have gone out of control from their leadership now. And carrying it on, let me basically come down to the crux of this analysis which Misra does. And if someone wants to understand what is actually happening in India and in this region these days, these lines are very beautiful for that. He says, communal forces backed by foreign agencies are hell-bent on destroying India. America wants to dismember Pakistan, Ghirao, China, etc. What he's saying primarily is that these forces are trying to create a problem between Pakistan and India, encircle China, and Mumbai terror attacks were a gigantic exercise a fight between those forces who want to take India towards the dangerous and suicidal US-Israel nexus, and those who want India to stay independent and have good relations with Pakistan, China and Iran. And I feel this is the most brilliant analysis of the situation happening these days. The hardliner, extremist, fascist forces within the Indian establishments are trying to build a nexus between the Americans and the Israelis, while the nationalist Indians, the good Indians, the secular Indians, feel that by following the Israeli and the American policy, India will be destroying itself. And this is the fight for the heart and soul of the Indian Federation going on right now. And as it seems, the fascists are winning. The good Indians are losing. The bad Indians are in charge right now. And they orchestrated this Mumbai thing. And you know what has happened after that is that a massive nexus between the Indian establishment, the Israelis and the Americans have joined hand together, and encirclement of Pakistan is taking place from two sides, from the Eastern Front, from the Indian side and from the Afghan sides. And recently, the Indian media showed footage of Indian Air Force preparing for war against Pakistan. And between their Russian aircraft, you could see the F-16s.
Yes, I remember.
And Indians don't have F-16s. So where do they get their F-16s from?
Israelis.
So they were actually Israelis flying along with them. And the history suggests also, even in 1981, when the Israelis had destroyed the Iraqi nuclear reactor at Osirak, they came after Pakistan. Israelis and Indians had been joining hands together for a very long period of time to destroy Pakistan's nuclear capability. The threat to Israel is, why is Israel bothered about Pakistan?
ये रहा शबुकरण के अदुपारण में यूफोन सिम का अदुपाल 1 लाख मिनट एवं 300 मिनट मुरकरण है। आपकी जो यूफोन सिम यकम दिसंबर से इस्तेमाल में नहीं है, उसे अभी से इस्तेमाल करने पर आपको मिलेंगे 6 माह में 300 मुफ्त मिनट। इसके साथ साथ आप जीत सकते हैं 1 लाख तक मुफ्त मिनट। तो क्या आप अभी अपनी यूफोन सिम इस्तेमाल करना शुरू कर देंगे? ए हाँ, बी बिल्कुल, सी जाहिर है, या डी अम्मी से पूछ के बताऊंगा।
अम्मी से पूछ के बताऊंगा
यानी कि ऑप्शन डी।
नहीं, वाकई अम्मी से पूछ के बताऊंगा। अम्मी जी बेटा।
मगर आप लोग अम्मी से पूछे बगैर अपनी यूफोन सिम दोबारा इस्तेमाल में ले आए और पैसे बचाएं अपने लिए, अपने फोन के लिए। हाय ओ भैया यूफोन, तुम ही तो दिन तड़कड़ तिड़ी पापा। वेलकम बैक।
पूरी दुनिया में रिसर्च चल रही है, उसके बाद आप अपने प्रोडक्ट्स डेवलप कर रहे हैं। कब तक आप नकल के प्रोडक्ट्स बनाएंगे?
मैं ये कहता हूँ कि अगर वो क्वालिटी के नहीं है या स्टैंडर्ड के नहीं है तो फिर एक्सपोर्ट कैसे हो रहा है?
हम लोग ने बहुत मेहनतें की हुई हैं, इंडस्ट्रीज को इस इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे लेके गए, अगर एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं।
पाकिस्तान में 50 बिलियन रुपीस पर एनम की इम्पोर्ट्स हो रही है ऑटोमोटिव पार्ट्स की।
हम लोग सब्सिडी देना चाहते हैं किसी बाहर के ट्रैक्टर को मंगवा के।
इसके अंदर हुकूमत ने कोई पॉजिटिव स्टेप्स ना लिए, काफी ज्यादा हमारी जीडीपी में सर मसला आएगा आने वाले टाइम में।
हर मुल्क अपनी इकोनॉमी को सेव करता है, अपनी इंडस्ट्री को सिक्योर करता है।
This program is brought to you from the makers of Diamond Supreme Foam.
Dolce Vita.
And
से करें बात अनलिमिटेड नंबर्स पर।
in association with Toyota Altis Cruise Tronic.
An icon that defines more freedom. Altis Cruise Tronic.
And EVM.
इसका टेस्ट है इतना मीठा और खस्ता, इसीलिए बिग प्रिंस के ऊपर सबसे ऊपर।
भाईजान
जब अनलिमिटेड हो चाहने वाले तो क्यों हो लिमिटेड फ्री नंबर्स। अब जोंग से करें बात अनलिमिटेड नंबर्स पर। रात 12 बजे से सुबह 7 बजे तक बिल्कुल फ्री। सहूलत हासिल करने के लिए 900 डायल करें। जोंग सब कह दो।
So far away from them. No, the problem is that Pakistan is a nuclear weapon state. Pakistan has got missiles which can hit Israel. And that threat in Pakistan, as the Islamic character of Pakistan, the David bin Gurion, the founding father of Israel, has categorically said after the creation of Israel that the friends of Arabs are more dangerous than the Arabs. And by any means, covert or overt, Israel must destroy Pakistan. So that ideology is within the Israeli mentality. Israelis have always been trying to come close to Pakistan, but Pakistan do not have diplomatic relationship with them. So destroying Pakistan is a common objective of the Indians and the Israelis. And Indians find it very convenient because they themselves do not have the capacity, do not have the power to destroy Pakistan. They have been trying. They were able to break away Pakistan's eastern wing in 1971 through the collaboration of the global, using their global financial control and using their global terror tactics to make America do all these things which the Israeli foreign policy demands. Never in history you would such a small country controlling such a huge country like America. And Misra, the last line of his article of December 9, very interestingly says, it has other phenomena like outsourcing war on terror to mercenaries attached to it. He's talking about Mossad. The Mossad has a habit of outsourcing terrorism. Mossad excels in forming armies of private mercenaries and destabilizing states the world over. Just go on the net. And this time, the Mossad's target is Pakistan. The war has come to Pakistan now. There is an urgency in Mossad now. There is an urgency in Israel to destabilize Pakistan. And for that, they want to drag India with it. Now, the convergence of interest between the Indian fascists, the Israeli Zionists, and the American hardliner neocons is one. Target, Pakistan. And that was Mumbai. That is why Mumbai was orchestrated. That is why the Indians are going practically hilariously overboard trying to prove that Pakistan was involved, despite overwhelming evidence from eyewitnesses and their own media and Western sources that this was an inside job. It was a false flag operation. They did it themselves. They wanted to divert attention from themselves towards Pakistan. They wanted to create a global justification that India must wage a war against Pakistan. It was a false flag 911. It didn't work out. They goofed up. But they tried. Died in this covert black operation. That was Mumbai.
Antule seeks probe into Karkare's killing, 18 December 2008, TNN.
Let me
Minority Affairs Minister.
Yes. Now, you see, it's not again. The death of the police officer who was being threatened by the Hindu hardliners was so strange and even because there's no inquiry on it. Nobody knows how he died, despite the fact that he was the topmost anti-terrorist officer. The Indian Minority States Minister actually raised the issue in the Parliament and asking for a solid inquiry. But what actually happens in return? The entire Indian Parliament goes after him, literally forces him to withdraw his statement. The fascists, again, this is again a sign that the fascists have won in the Indian Parliament.
And they've got great influence in the Parliament.
Exactly. That man, Antoli, was brave enough to take his stand. He stood his ground for a very long period of time, suggesting, no, yes, there is a suspicious character to his death of the police officer. Some fascists are involved in killing him. He has not been killed by so-called Pakistani terrorists. There is something which must be investigated. Yes. And he was forced to back down in the Parliament by the fascists. And this is what I'm saying. Indian Federation has been taken over by fascists. The nationalists, the seculars have lost the war in India.
And do you think the upcoming elections in India?
And exactly, in the upcoming elections in India, the Colonel Prohi, the man who's a known terrorist, the man who killed dozens of people, planted bombs all over India, the BJP, the mainstream party, is saying they will make him stand as their ministerial candidate. And they are saying the Narendra Modi, the man who has thousands of blood, burned people alive, the man who burned children alive, is now being tipped as the Indian Prime Minister. Say farewell to the Indian Federation. Indian Federation is going to disintegrate like Austro-Hungarian Empire if this fault line, if this direction that the Indian Federation is taking.
I totally agree, Zaid. I totally agree with you. So this man was forced to keep his mouth shut on this particular issue. Was the Mumbai attack a contractual terrorist operation? December 2008. Again, Amrish Mishra.
You see, again, why we are quoting Mishra here again? Because he is only brave man in the Indian media who is constantly, and he has the guts, he has the contacts, and he is a local, secular, hardcore Indian.
And a very known investigative
journalist. He's written so many books, very well acclaimed. Now, every week, he writes a new article exposing more information that comes to him, because there's so many sources he's getting his information from. Of course, he's not getting his information from ISI, but he's getting from his own Indian sources. Now, he says, very interestingly, that it was later discovered that the telephone SIMs, the telephone cards, chips,
all the terrorists used,
so-called terrorists who were using them, were actually provided by the undercover Indian intelligence officers. And his article, and it written on 19th of December, Misra says, was the Mumbai attack a contractual terrorist operation?
Yep.
And he says, one of the two Indian men arrested for allegedly buying mobile phone cards used by the gunman was a counter-insurgency police officer who may have been on an undercover duty. Now, another, he says, senior police officer in Indian Kashmir, which has been at the heart of the tensions between India and Pakistan, demands that the release of the officer Mukhtar Ahmed, saying that he was their own and had been involved in infiltrating Kashmiri militant groups. Primarily, it is the implication of Ahmed's involvement that Indian agents may have been in touch with the militants and perhaps supplied the SIM cards as well. It is categorically proven now that the people who supplied the telephones and the SIM cards to the terrorists worked for the Indian intelligence. They were undercover officers. They knew all along each and everything which was happening. It was not a surprise attack.
Basically,
it was not a surprise operation as
they were the people who scripted this whole...
They scripted the whole thing. They wrote the whole thing. They orchestrated it. But as we said, idiots as they are, they goofed up big time. They messed it up completely. There's so many trails, so many... The entire trail, so many fingerprints they left around, that even their own media, even their own officers, their own investigating team, and remember one thing as well, that Indian police, from the team of ATS Kurkure, from the team of the police officer, were on the tails, were on the of those terrorists, trying to find out who killed their boss. And naturally, they have also come up with so much of information which Misra has, and he has written. And it's worth reading his articles, actually.
Arif Chaudhry acknowledged that he was a Pakistani in his statement.
Yes, this is very interesting, because a few years back, there was an attack on Indian Red Fort in Delhi. And just like the attack on Samjhauta Express was blamed on Pakistan. Nobody knew what happened after that, because few people were caught and nobody knew, because Indians hushed up the investigations. Why did they hush up the investigations? Because the man who was caught, the statements that he gave were so damning against the Indian intelligence. And Misra quotes them, Misra writes to them, and I quote. And one of the Indian websites, Tehelka, is a very famous website, because they are known for, Tehelka means creating a storm. I mean, they are famous for creating storms. They have really exposed scandals within the Indian society and system. And Tehelka writes about the Red Fort incident. Arif, that's the man of the terrorist supposedly caught. Arif candidly acknowledged that he was a Pakistani in his statement, under section so-and-so, but he also explained in detail the circumstances under which he came to India. Arif claimed that he was an operative for RAW, India's external intelligence agency. His statement reads, I used to work for the X-branch of RAW since 1997. This is the most damning statement against RAW. They had hired a Pakistani to act as a terrorist to create that Pakistanis are involved in terrorism in India. And that is why Tehelka exposed it, Misra writes it, and we present it today, categorically suggesting that Red Fort operation was also a covert operation by RAW to rope Pakistan in, creating a justification that Pakistan is ISI and Pakistan security establishments are terrorist organizations. Again, their own sources exposing them. And that is why you find no investigation of the Red Fort case. You find absolutely nothing coming out of the Samjhauta Express case also. And in fact, because there are dozens of Pakistanis, almost 100 Pakistanis were killed and wounded, burnt alive in fact, when the doors of the train were closed and explosives were put inside by Colonel Prohit, the man arrested by Kurkure. And these terrorist acts were all blamed on Pakistan.
Imagine those doors were closed.
They locked the doors.
They locked the door from outside.
And then they burned those people alive.
Can you imagine?
Burning people alive is the favorite hobby of Indian hardcore Zionists, of Modi, of RSS, of Bajrang Dal, of Shiv Sena, and Bal Thackeray.
Because they burn the dead bodies as well. So
because they burn the dead bodies, so they burn Muslims alive. And this is the mentality of them. And this is what the RAW has been doing. Red Fort operation was a black op, false flag operation. The Samjhauta was a false flag operation. Mumbai was a false flag operation. Everything is exposed now from their own sources.
Now we'll be talking about, they say that listening to the terrorists is this language of a Pakistani from Punjab or an Indian
You see, what
from South
the Indians
India.
have done is that they have dug their own grave. In their overexcitement,
Excuse me, yeah.
in their overexcitement, they recorded this entire conversation, let it run live. The conversation between a terrorist and an Indian anchor. It was allowed to run
They're just
live.
trying to create a hype or something like that?
Yes, they were trying to, because they thought in the heat of the moment they'll create enough hype against Pakistan, and then their plan was to create a global justification for a preemptive strike on Pakistan, which they tried. But since Pakistan Armed Forces and Pakistan Air Force became alert, the Indian Air Force did come. They did try to cross the borders, but they were engaged by Pakistani Air Force, and they had to go back. But Indians tried to create a global justification for a preemptive strike on Pakistan under the pretext that Pakistanis were involved. Again, as we said, right now, they're extremely offended and upset that they have lost the advantage of surprise. They have not been able to generate global support against Pakistan for their cause. And the Pakistani armed forces are fully deployed. So Indians have now, if they attack Pakistan, they'll have to suffer 100 times more losses than which they could have taken the advantage of immediately after the Mumbai blast. So they've, again, here also they've goofed up big time, missed an opportunity for which they're kicking themselves now. And here, they would kick themselves more by putting this in a link in our dossier here, and we'll suggest and we'll recommend our viewers to go to our website, find this link, watch this, and listen to the language. And anybody who understands Hindi and Urdu would find it hilarious. You see the entire thing in perspective. Before the Mumbai blast, 2 weeks before that, a series of articles were coming in the press, and we are going to read those few articles here. Everything was bombshell for the Hindu fascists, because it was exposing...
They were just creating a feel, you know?
And entire India was up in arms. Shocked and surprised at what's happening, the Indian serving officers were being caught. Their entire, the whole network of RSS and Bajrang Dal and BJP was being dismantled, exposed. And suddenly, and you see, the all-bomb blast by Hindu terrorists, Lieutenant Colonel Prohit gave RDX for Samjhauta blast, ATS to court. Anti-terrorism...
Times of India reports this.
Anti-terrorism police, whose head was Prohit, his head was Kurkure, who was killed. He tells the court, all bomb blast by Hindu terrorists. Lieutenant Colonel Prohit gave RDX. Now,
60 kg of RDX.
60 kilograms of RDX. Now, this was a headline in Times of India. Can you imagine this? So, when these kind of headlines started to come in the middle of November, and then on November 26th, threat to blow up ATF chief house. And again, this is an Indian media which is saying the ATS chief, the police officer, was saying threat that we'll blow up your house, we'll kill you in 2 days. And they did
it, yes.
See the timeline. We've discussed the timeline before. On November 15th, headline was Hindu extremists behind Samjhauta Ajmer blasts. That's November 15th. Things are building up now. November 15th again, shocking first. Woman held in a 2002 Gujarat riot case.
November 15th.
November 15th. See the build up.
Yeah.
November 13th, Malignon blast, UP religious leader on NDA dropout. November 13th again, there was another news item on November 13th, again suggesting the same nexus. And November 29th, after the Mumbai thing, Kurkure's wife declines Modi's compensation offer.
Now this is a big story.
Our sympathies to her. Her husband killed by the Hindu fascists. She knows it pretty well. She knows it very well. Her husband, she has been widowed by Hindu fascists, by Narendra Modi and his mercenaries.
That was the reason she refused the compensation. So basically, there's a build-up, you know, there's a step-by-step.
It is now proven beyond doubt, absolutely no doubt about this, that entire Mumbai was orchestrated by Hindu fascists, RAW and Mossad. And as Mishra writes, it is a fight for the heart and soul of the Indian Federation. The hardliners are trying to create a larger alliance between Indians, Israelis and Americans against Pakistan.
Maybe they're being funded by RAW.
This is exactly what has happened. This is we are going to discuss when we come forward, when we discuss the dossier, the supposed proofs that the Indians give against Pakistan. We'll discuss that later.
There's another important point here. It says Interpol. Where's the evidence? That's what the Interpol says. So where?
On December 23, almost after a month of Mumbai attacks, the Interpol comes to Pakistan and goes to India and says, where is the evidence? Interpol was still waiting after a month for the evidence, and still we find no Interpol involvement in it. Interpol has been sidelined. They've got absolutely no intelligence, no information, no proof. of this so-called Pakistan's involvement in Mumbai.
It says in what is clearly a blow to India's case against Pakistan. Interpol today has confirmed, this is December 23rd, confirmed that India has so far not provided any real evidence to back up their allegations that the Mumbai attackers came from Pakistan.
And you keep this in mind, this is almost after a month. And very interestingly, there's an analyst, Gautam Adhikari, very famous, and he writes a very interesting comment on what happened in Mumbai. And remember, this is Indian, this is Hindu, and this is the nationalist. And he says, the RSS and Mossad are responsible. They killed Herman Kurkure, Mumbai ATS chief, to send a message that you cannot investigate it. You cannot investigate the Mossad RSS angle.
Then who is basically investigating this case in particular? And is it CIA? Is it RAW?
You see, now
Pakistan has offered their services. Well, you know, we can be a part of
this. This is what is happening.
And they do not accept that. They say, we have given you enough proof, hand over these people.
Indians just cannot allow Pakistani intelligence sleuths to go and join the common investigation. Pakistan is offering, we'll send our investigators, let's bring the proof together, we'll sit together and we'll see what you have got. But Indians would never do this. Why they would never do this? Because Indians are saying is RSS and Mossad killed the police chief because they do not want anybody to investigate them. How can they allow anyone from Pakistan to go, despite the fact they're saying Pakistan is involved, but they're not allowing, they're not sharing any intelligence, they're not allowing any joint investigation.
I think they should be given this dossier then.
They will be seeing this dossier
soon.
And they have already seen it. And I'm sure they've enjoyed it.
Moving on.
Now we come to the very interesting statement. And this is the icing on the cake. This is the funniest part of it. You see, what the Indian says, that the lone surviving terrorist, Ajmal Kasab, so-called, is from Pakistani village in province of Punjab. And he's a 4th grade dropout. The name of the village which they say, almost 99% of the people in the village are almost illiterate.
I haven't even heard the name, by the way.
And almost illiterate farmers. And this boy is supposedly a 4th grade dropout. It's impossible that he speaks English. And it's even more impossible that he would understand Hindi, the Indian language. He writes a statement. A statement is written. And the last line of this statement is, and I read, my statement is read over to me. In brackets, I've written myself in English. And the next is explained in Hindi, and it is correctly recorded. Now, funny part
this is Ajmal Kasab
saying. This is Ajmal Kasab saying in the last line. You see, the question is, if the statement was written for him in Urdu, why would he have to say it has been explained to me in Hindi? What kind of terrorist 4th grader dropout of Pakistani village school is that he understands English and Hindi and not Urdu? Because he is saying categorically, my statement has been read over to me in English and explained in Hindi. He has not talked about Urdu. Pakistanis speak Urdu, not English, not Hindi. Especially the 4th grader dropouts from the rural village.
Rural village somewhere, yeah.
So this is where we come. You see, now we have comprehensively discussed the entire background of Indian Hindu fascism, how they are controlling the Indian state and police, intelligence services and their political structure now, how they Mumbai thing. And after this, we come to the so-called dossier that the Indians gave to Pakistan as proof that Pakistan is involved in this act. And that is the most hilarious part of the entire episode. Let's come to that.
Now, let me ask you this question. It was, I read a lot about it in the newspapers, and the Americans basically, I can't quote exactly which newspaper was it, but maybe in a lot of them, that if the Americans knew about the attack, which was supposed to happen in India, which was most probably the Mumbai terrorist attack, why didn't they inform the Pakistanis?
You see, this is the funny part, because the Indian media and the American officials have officially said this, that they knew about this.
It's on record, it's official.
It's on record, everything is written in dossier as well. That they
not once, twice.
Twice. They had warned the Indians of possible seaborne attack on Mumbai. But the question is, if the CIA knew about these attacks and they had warned Indians, why they didn't? Because if the attack had to come from Pakistan, they should have been telling Pakistan, because Pakistan is supposed to be their partner.
Or on the other hand, it was a great intelligence failure by the Indian side.
And on the other hand, if the what did they do about it? The fact is, the plan was being created. The CIA, some wing, some faction of CIA did pick up the noise, pick up the chatter. They passed on the information to the Indians, because obviously Indians were not interested in thwarting this attack. They were orchestrating this. They had to create this drama, and they did. The funny part is, the Americans don't share this intel with Pakistan. And this makes it very
Let's talk about this dossier now, Zaid. It says, before going into the cross-examination of these 69 pages Indian dossier, it is worth to take into account some more burning and interesting questions. To start with, here, role of Indian and US agencies and international media is very critical. A, Indian intelligence failure or American-Israeli intelligence brilliance? Your comment, Zaid.
That Indians had given the names of 10 Pakistanis supposedly who were the terrorists who were involved in this Mumbai operation. And Indians said there were only 10 people who were killed. 9 people were killed. 1 was kept alive, captured alive. Ajmal Kasab, they call him. The funny part is that over 4,000 Indian police and commandos were trying to clear 10 people, and they could not do that for 60 hours. So are we talking here the Indian army and the special forces and the commandos, including the Israeli commandos which joined in the combat, were supposedly, are they real forces or the bunch of schoolboys or boy scouts? And they could not control the event for 60 hours, and the fighting kept going on. Against whom? 10 people? Were the 10 people only? And are the real 10 people? And the question is, when the Indians are saying that only one was captured alive.
1 person to 400 people. 400
the 9 names that the Indians have given, why is nobody investigating them? Let's find out who those 9 people are. Indians are not even pushing for them, because what happened was the Indian medical reports clearly, categorically said that those people who were killed, they were badly mutilated deliberately by the Indian forces. They were shot through their eyes, their fingers were cut.
Absolutely.
So there was no iris recognition, there will be no fingerprinting. Indians have not given a single fingerprinting of these so-called terrorists to Pakistan.
They don't even talk about them.
Exactly, they don't even talk about them. So what kind of dossier of proof is this? That supposedly you killed 9 people and do not give any fingerprinting, DNAs, or their iris recognition or their pictures to Pakistan. And the person who has supposedly you have captured alive, whom you call the Ajmal Kasab, what is the proof that he is Ajmal Kasab? What is the proof that the man is the actual terrorist? Even if he is Ajmal Kasab, what is the proof that he was involved in that terrorism? Because the man whom you see pictured in supposedly carrying a weapon in his hand is so calm.
This is the only guy who's been captured. You know,
only guy who's been captured. There are no bodies. There's no picture of any other terrorist. And the man is so calm and composed.
Walking as if he's just...
As if he's in a park. And I can tell you this, even the most cold-blooded killers cannot walk like this the way that man is walking. It's a photo op. It's a photo shoot it was. And that is why the Indians have kept that man alive. Just like the story of the Red Fort, in which the man supposedly was a Pakistani, but he worked it for raw Indian intelligence. There is a possibility, because we are hearing lots of stories about this Ajmal Kasab, because one report suggests that he was kidnapped from Nepal. One report suggests that he went to India as a tourist and was kept and was hijacked and kidnapped. But also there are reports which are very serious, which suggest that the man was not even a Muslim, not even a Pakistani. He was a Hindu, since he was wearing that kalawa, that Zionist saffron band in his hand. And his identification is not yet confirmed. And we need to talk to that man to see who he is, what's his story. And Indians obviously would not be bringing him close to Pakistanis for that. So that was the first part of the dossier, because they give the names. They give the names of those 10 people, but they do not give any further proof or identification. No fingerprints, no iris recognition, no DNA, no nothing. So what kind of dossier is this? What kind of dossier of proof is this that these men were Pakistanis? Who knows who they are?
They've given a couple of names,
very interesting.
Abdur Rahman, Fadullah, Javed,
something very
Hafiz,
interesting,
Nazir,
Faisal. I really want to discuss this here. Indians have given a list to Pakistan saying that these are the wanted men for Mumbai and they want them back in India. But what the Pakistanis don't know is, in that list, majority are either Sikhs or from a gang of a Don, underworld Mumbai Don Dawood Ibrahim. Most of the men are from Dawood Ibrahim gang or Sikhs. When Sikhs and Dawood Ibrahim are not accused by Indians to be part of this Mumbai thing, why are they demanding them from Pakistan? And this is the funny part of it. They say Jamaat-ul-Dawa or Pakistanis are involved in Mumbai, but the list they give is of Indians of Sikh origin or of Mumbai's own citizens. So if Indians are saying that Pakistanis are involved, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense at all.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely. And they're not even talking about, that's what I'm saying, they're not even talking about the rest of these nine people.
The Indians write a story that what actually happened to those men when they got down from the boat.
The script you're talking about.
The script.
And the direction.
I mean, this is something hilarious actually. Yeah. No professional terrorist would ever do this. If he has an objective to kill, go to a particular site and kill so many people, who would not do this? What they're saying is, those men got down from the boat onto the beaches of Mumbai, took taxis, divided themselves into a pair of two. And then...
So basically there were 10 people in a pair of two, 5 groups.
Five groups. And one group, which consisting of Ajmal Kasab and Ismail, they take 2 taxis. They sit in separate taxis.
Why? Why was that so?
Suppose when they were pairing together, and so the 2 taxis were supposed to follow each other, apparently, and then they get down and put and plant bombs in those taxis. While they walk away, the bombs explode behind them, killing the taxi drivers. What kind of rubbish story this? Even third-rate cinema script writers could come up with better stories. Because if the objective of those 2 men, supposedly, was to kill people in a certain place, why would they draw the attention of the entire world by blowing up 2 empty taxis when they have already alighted from them, when they've already gotten off from them? And what
they would be very stupid if they would do that,
very stupid to use their explosive devices to blow up 2 empty taxis when nobody's
for no reason.
For no reason. Absolutely.
Just to be in the limelight, maybe.
Just to be in the limelight. So this is again one of the proof.
This is what the Indians say.
This is the Indian dossier is saying.
Oh God.
Would you believe this?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have seen comedies, but this beats them all. And the final part is, we come to the story where the Indian dossier writes about the incident.
Okay, now it says, it says 1 taxi was blown up at Wadi Bandar and the other at killing the 2 taxi drivers. So, and
rubbish.
Just creating a scene that,
creating a scene, 2 bomb explosions for no reason, while the terrorists are still walking on the feet, along with their weapon caches and weapon backpacks full of weapons.
What next? What happened?
One thing in mind. Then the Indian police is saying, the Indian dossier is saying, 2 terrorists walk into the railway station, kill almost 200 people.
Okay, now the story is, they're off from the boat, they're in a cab, in 2 cabs rather, these 2 characters, Kasab and Ismail, and then they blow up those taxis, and they got out, and now they are going to the railway station.
Then they go to the railway station.
Okay.
So they have reached the railway station now. Then they take out their guns, start slaughtering people left, right and center. Now, We're
talking about the Bombay railway station.
We are talking about the Bombay railway station with 3.5 million people use that every day. That's the Bombay railway station we are talking about. And they are saying, the dossier is saying, there were few policemen here and there who tried to stop those men. Few policemen? Surely the policemen were more than 2, because according to the dossier, there were only 2 terrorists.
So the few means not 1?
Few means not 1.
Could be 2 or could be 20.
And now if you remember, the news report that D'Souza, that photographer, which his report that we quoted earlier, now we go back there, and D'Souza said at that time, the police if I had a gun, I would have shot them, and police were all around them, covering them, but not shooting at them. So this Indian dossier, that police fought with them and they fought their way through, and they killed hundreds of people, and they don't get shot themselves. What kind? Even the weirdest of Hollywood or Bollywood movies don't come up with this kind of stupid plot.
Matrix, maybe.
You see? And those 2 men, imagine, they kill almost 200 people, kill or wounded. Can you imagine how much ammunition they would use? How much ammunition? To kill 200 people, you need to fire thousands of bullets.
Absolutely.
You see? And then they walk out from the railway station and start walking on Mumbai streets, firing around.
Entering through some scanners or something?
You see, again, this is not clear. Again, this is not clear.
Technically speaking, if they went to the railway station, those scanners were supposed to be there then, because that's the only pictures they have.
Indians are never mentioned, because the pictures supposedly taking those 2 men walking out through walk-through gates. Walk-through gates are supposed to be in the hotels, not at the railway station.
That's what I'm saying.
Because in a railway station with 3.5 million people, you wouldn't be using walk-through gates there. And these men, according to the police report, never made it to any hotel. They came out from this.
Now you just keep on.
And they hijacked different vehicles, kept fighting with the police all the way, and on the way one of them was killed and the other, Ajmal Kasab, was captured alive. This is what the dossier is saying.
So Zaid, what exactly happened once they got out of the railway station, according to the Indian intelligence version?
You see, this is the dossier which is saying everything. According to the Indian dossier, those two men, one of them was Ajmal Kasab, other was Ismail, after slaughtering people and coming out of the cordon of hundreds of policemen from the railway station, they come out and
safe and sound.
Safe and sound.
No injuries,
no
nothing.
injuries, and they are on the road. And then they conduct some adventures. They hijack a police vehicle, they kill so many policemen.
They hijack a police
vehicle, and then they drive, and they hijack another car, and then they come across a barricade of police, and finally an exchange of fire takes place, and Ismail was killed, and Ajmal Kasab was captured alive. According to the dossier. So everything that happened, it happened on the first night within first couple of hours, because after their rampage, supposed rampage at the railway station, it did not take them more than an hour to do all this, which the Indian dossier is saying.
Obviously.
Now here two things are very, very critical. One thing is, the one picture of Ajmal Kasab and Ismail shows them at the gate of a hotel. They never reached any hotel.
Because one was killed and the other one was captured.
Exactly. Right after the railway station, supposedly they were killed and captured on the roadside. So how come their picture is shown in a hotel? That's part one.
That's a big question mark.
That's a big question mark. And second thing is, they were captured within the first hour of the operation, according to this dossier.
Okay.
But the news of his being captured alive came to us after 60 hours.
Almost 3-4 days.
Almost 4 days, when everything was over and the entire operation in the Taj Hotel was over. Then the Indian media says they have killed all and captured one. And remember this, the Belfast Telegraph reports categorically says they captured so many people, not one, but they let them go. They're hushing up everything because they were Americans, they were Mauritanians, they were British, and they were Malaysians. And they had those documents. So keep that reporting, keep this information in mind which the dossier is giving. The
huge contradiction.
Contradiction is hilarious. Contradiction is ridiculous actually. And it doesn't make sense. The man is killed on the street. How can he be pictured in Taj Hotel or Oberoi Hotel? According to this, he was killed on the streets. And
these are two separate stories
Two separate stories, because according to them, the Taj Hotel again is one of their icons, 7-star or 5-star hotel. The 4 men, according to this dossier, entered that hotel, and those 4 men kept.
Now the story the story is, according to the Indian intelligence agency or whatever,
or the dossier that they've given.
There were 10 people. They got into a group of 2 each, a pair, 5 pairs. 1 pair, 1 guy is killed, 1 is captured. Ajmal Kasab is captured.
Yeah.
Now there are 8 left. 4 get into Taj Mahal.
2 pairs get into Taj Hotel.
Okay.
1 goes into Oberoi.
Okay.
And was into that Jewish house.
Okay.
One group
now everybody is
placed
Okay,
there.
perfect.
So Taj Hotel has got 4 people according to the Indian dossier. And 4,000 cops, commandos, special forces kept battling them for what, 60 hours?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Wow. That's some score. That's some performance. That's some efficiency.
1 to 1,000.
1 to 1,000. And they hold out.
And how is it possible? How much weapon were they carrying? And how much weapon can you actually hold?
Can you actually hold? And how much weapon can you actually carry? You see? And this is the funny part. And now I'm going to quote a few more things to you. Something very interesting. Because coming to the segment where Indians says that they have captured the communication, telephonic conversation between their handlers in Pakistan and the terrorists. And the conversation they give is from the Jewish house. And the fact of the matter is that this information cannot be verified for simple reason that both these men supposedly whom they placed in the Jewish house were dead. So the dead people don't speak. And naturally, there is absolutely no proof or any conversation. The only conversation we have heard, which the person was talking from the Jewish house to the television anchor, he was speaking Hindi, not Urdu. We have discussed that earlier, and that recording.
There were 10, 11, 12 words used.
Exactly.
Which Urdu.
And that conversation was done from the Jewish center, from the Jewish house. So basically, this information that Pakistanis from Pakistan were controlling their assets or terrorists inside the Jewish center is ridiculous again, because when you read these transcripts to a Western audience, they cannot make out that this language is Hindi or Urdu.
But we understand.
But we understand. Yeah. So if you translate this conversation in English, you would feel, wow, they've got a translated conversation going on.
That's the difference between an American and a British. Simple.
You see? And a Western audience would say, okay, a conversation has been recorded, assuming that this is what the Indian Raw and Mossad is saying is true, which of course, ridiculous to assume itself, they would be speaking the truth. And you translate that in English because the British papers have reproduced certain conversations. What they're saying is, those men got down from the boat onto the beaches of Mumbai, took taxis, divided themselves into a pair of two. And then...
So basically there were 10 people in a pair of two, 5 groups.
Five groups. And one group, which consisting of they take 2 taxis. They sit in separate taxis.
Why? Why was that so?
Suppose when they were pairing together, and so the 2 taxis were supposed to follow each other, apparently. And then they get down and plant bombs in those taxis. While they walk away, the bombs explode behind them, killing the taxi drivers. What kind of rubbish story is this? Even third-rate cinema script writers could come up with better stories. Because if the objective of those 2 men, supposedly, was to kill people in a certain place, why would they draw the attention of the entire world by blowing up 2 empty taxis when they have already alighted from them, when they've already gotten off from them? And what
they would be very stupid if they would do that,
very stupid to use their explosive devices to blow up 2 empty taxis when nobody is
for no reason.
For no reason. Absolutely.
Just to be in the limelight, maybe.
Just to be in the limelight. So this is again one of the proof.
This is what the Indians say.
This is the Indian dossier is saying.
Oh God.
Would you believe this?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have seen comedies, but this beats them all. And the final part is, we come to the story where the Indian dossier writes about the incident.
Okay, now it says, it says one taxi was blown up at Wadi Bandar and the other at Viliparli, killing the 2 taxi drivers. So, and just creating a scene that,
creating a scene, 2 bomb explosions for no reason, while the terrorists are still walking on the feet, along with their weapon caches and weapon backpacks full of weapons.
What next? What happened after that?
You see, the funny part again, keep one thing in mind. Then the Indian police is saying, the Indian dossier is saying, 2 terrorists walk into the railway station, kill almost 200 people.
Okay, now the story is, they're off from the boat, they're in a cab, in 2 cabs rather, these 2 characters, Kasab and Ismail, and then they blow up those taxis, and they got out, and now they are going to the railway station.
Then they go to the railway station.
Okay.
So they have reached the railway station now. Then they take out their guns, start slaughtering people left, right, and center. Now, Indian dossier...
You're talking about the Bombay railway station.
We are talking about the Bombay railway station with 3.5 million people use that every day. That's the Bombay railway station we are talking about. And they are saying, the dossier is saying, there were few policemen here and there who tried to stop those men. Few policemen? Surely the policemen were more than 2, because according to the dossier, there were only 2 terrorists.
So few means not 1?
Few means not 1.
Could be 2 or could be 20.
And now if you remember the news report that D'Souza, that photographer, which his report that we quoted earlier, now we go back there, and D'Souza said at that time, the police
if I had a gun,
I would have shot them, and police were all around them, covering them, but not shooting at them. So this Indian dossier, that police fought with them and they fought their way through, and they killed hundreds of people, and they don't get shot themselves. What kind? Even the weirdest of Hollywood or Bollywood movies don't come up with this kind of stupid plot.
Matrix, maybe.
You see? And those 2 men, imagine, they kill almost 200 people, kill or wounded. Can you imagine how much ammunition they would use? How much ammunition? To kill 200 people, you need to fire thousands of bullets.
Absolutely.
You see? And then they walk out from the railway station and start walking on Mumbai streets, firing around.
Pictures entering through some scanners or something?
You see, again, this is not clear. Again, this is not clear.
Technically speaking, if they went to the railway station, those scanners were supposed to be there then, because that's the only pictures they have.
Indians are never mentioned, because the pictures supposedly taking those 2 men walking out through walk-through gates. Walk-through gates are supposed to be in the hotels, not at the railway station.
That's what I'm saying.
Because in a railway station with 3.5 million people, you wouldn't be using walk-through gates there. And these men, according to the police report, never made it to any hotel. They came out from this.
Now you just keep on.
And they hijacked different vehicles, kept fighting with the police all the way, and on the way one of them was killed and the other, Ajmal Kasab, was captured alive. This is what the dossier is saying.
So Zaid, what exactly happened once they got out of the railway station, according to the Indian intelligence version?
You see, this is the dossier which is saying everything. According to the Indian dossier, those two men, one of them was Ajmal Kasab, other was Ismail, after slaughtering people and coming out of the cordon of hundreds of policemen from the railway station, they come out and they...
Safe and sound.
Safe and sound.
No injuries,
no
nothing.
injuries, and they're on the road. And then they conduct some adventures. They hijack a police vehicle, they kill so many policemen.
They hijack a police vehicle.
And then they drive and they hijack another car, and then they come across a barricade of police, and finally an exchange of fire takes place, and Ismail was killed, and Ajmal Kasab was captured alive.
No, this is
according to the dossier. So everything that happened, it happened on the first night within first couple of hours, because after their rampage, supposed rampage at the railway station, it did not take them more than an hour to do all this, which the Indian dossier is saying.
Obviously.
Now here two things are very, very critical. One thing is, the one picture of Ajmal Kasab and Ismail shows them at the gate of a hotel. And the funny part is, they never reached any hotel.
Because one was killed and the other one was captured.
Exactly. Right after the railway station, supposedly they were killed and captured on the roadside. So how come their picture is in a hotel? That's part one.
That's a big question mark.
That's a big question mark. And second thing is, they were captured within the first hour of the operation, according to this dossier.
Okay.
But the news of his being captured alive came to us after 60 hours.
Almost 3-4 days.
Almost 4 days, when everything was over and the entire operation in the Taj Hotel was over, then the Indian media says they have killed all and captured one. And remember this, the Belfast Telegraph reports categorically says they captured so many people, not one, but they let them go, or they're hushing up everything because they were Americans, they were Mauritanians, they were British, and they were Malaysians. And they had those documents. So keep that report in mind, keep this information in mind, which the dossier is giving. The
huge contradiction.
Contradiction is hilarious. Contradiction is ridiculous, actually. And it doesn't make sense. The man is killed on the street. How can he be pictured in Taj Hotel or Oberoi Hotel? According to this, he was killed on the streets. And
with the two separate stories
Two separate stories, because according to them, the Taj Hotel, again, is one of their icons. 7-star or 5-star hotel. The 4 men, according to this dossier, entered that hotel, and those 4 men kept.
Now the story the story is, according to the Indian intelligence agency or whatever.
Or the dossier that they've given.
There were 10 people. We got into a group of 2 each, a pair, 5 pairs. 1 pair, 1 guy is killed, 1 is captured. Ajmal Kasab is captured.
Yeah.
Now there are 8 left. 4 get into Taj Mahal.
2 pairs get into Taj Hotel.
Okay.
Oberoi.
Okay.
And was into that Jewish house.
Okay.
One group
now everybody's
placed
okay,
there.
perfect.
So Taj Hotel has got 4 people according to the Indian dossier. And 4,000 cops, commandos, special forces kept battling them for what, 60 hours?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Wow. That's some score. That's some performance. That's some efficiency.
1 to 1,000.
1 to 1,000. And they hold out.
And how is it possible? How much weapon were they carrying? And how much weapon can you actually hold?
Can you actually hold, and how much weapon can you actually carry, you see? And this is the funny part. And now I'm going to quote a few more things to you. Something very interesting. Because coming to the segment where Indians says that they have captured the communication, telephonic conversation between their handlers in Pakistan and the terrorists. And the conversation they give is from the Jewish house. And the fact of the matter is that this information cannot be verified for simple reason that both these men supposedly whom they placed in the Jewish house were dead. So the dead people don't speak. And naturally, there is absolutely no proof for any conversation. The only conversation we have heard, which the person was talking from the Jewish house to the television anchor, he was speaking Hindi, not Urdu. We have discussed that earlier, and that recording.
There were 10, 11, 12 words used.
Exactly.
Which Urdu.
And that conversation was done from the Jewish center, from the Jewish house. So basically, this information that Pakistanis from Pakistan were controlling their assets or terrorists inside the Jewish center is ridiculous again, because when you read these transcripts to a Western audience, they cannot make out that this language is Hindi or Urdu.
But we understand.
But we understand. Yeah. So if you translate this conversation in English, you would feel, wow, they've got a translate conversation going on.
That's the difference between an American and a British. Simple.
You see? And a Western audience would say, okay, a conversation has been recorded, assuming that this is what the Indian Raw and Mossad is saying is true, which of course, ridiculous to assume itself, they would be speaking the truth. And you translate that in English because the British papers have reproduced certain conversations.